The millionaire's humble worker calms the autistic child, and what she did was unbelievable. Ava never thought she'd be the center of a storm. Quiet, unseen, tucked away behind desks and endless paperwork. Her life had been a steady march of small days in a skyscraper packed with power. But that afternoon, everything shattered like glass. They called her into the lavish office on the 45th floor. The very same room where the city's richest man made deals worth millions. Gilded walls glittered under crystal chandeliers. Untouched leather chairs, lined up like soldiers, and a sleek glass desk gleamed unnervingly. And there, slumped near the window, was Leo, the businessman's son. A boy with wild, frightened eyes, darting everywhere but at people.
Leo's presence was raw. He rocked back and forth, hands twitching nervously. His world spun in silence, misunderstood by everyone around him. The sharp scent of expensive cologne mixed with the musty smell of his small, worn toy car clutched tightly. Ava's heart hammered so loud it felt like the whole room heard it. No one wanted to deal with Leo. Too unpredictable, too hard to reach. But now, Ava was handed the impossible. Keep the boy calm, coax him out of his silent shell, and do it without ruining the fragile balance of this polished, perfect world. The tension was a living thing, wrapping tight cuffs around her chest with every glance from the
sharp-suited men who whispered behind doors. At first, Leo pulled away. His fingers twitched like lightning. He avoided her touch, his body stiffening in sudden panic. Ava's throat tightened. Her own hands trembled, but she stayed steady. Soft voice, slow blink, careful step, like treading ice without cracking it. Minutes passed. Then, something unexpected. A flicker of stillness. Leo's gaze snagged on the small blue ball Ava held out, rolling it slowly across the marble floor. His fingers twitched again, but this time they reached out, hesitant, delicate. A door cracked open beneath the surface. Ava could feel it. Yet beneath Leo's fragile calm, Ava sensed a deeper storm. There was more than autism here. Shadows lurking behind that bright smile of the father, behind the glass towers and luxury. A secret wrapped in silence, threatening the boy's fragile grip on safety. The faintest flicker of a hidden truth stirred deep inside Ava's gut, a warning too urgent to ignore. She glanced around the room. The walls, the locked drawers, the untouched family portraits. Something wasn't right. A detail whispered to her mind, a cryptic clue tucked away in a forgotten note she'd stumbled on earlier that day. Something that could break everything open, shatter the empire built on power and secrets. Her chest tightened again. How could one fragile child hold the key to a world so cold and big? And what would happen when that key twisted in the lock? The silence pressed down as Ava's eyes fixed on Leo, a boy caught between walls nobody else seemed to see. The quiet between them hummed with unanswered questions. What secret lurked beneath the shining surface? And what would Ava do when her safe, invisible world began to crumble? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button, because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Ava's heart raced, like a trapped bird, as she watched Leo slowly reach for the blue ball. The room was thick with tension. Silence wrapped around them like a shroud. She dared to hope. Maybe she could break through to him. But just as the ball touched Leo's fingers, the office door swung open with a crash, shattering the moment. In walked the millionaire, the man with the power to make or break lives. His impeccably tailored suit was sharp. His eyes shimmered with ambition, yet they flickered with something darker. Behind him stood a man in a navy uniform, his stark presence carrying a weight that made the air crackle. "Sir," the officer barked, urgency spurting from his lips. "We've got a situation." Ava's stomach dropped. The boy in front of her was suddenly lost in a whirlwind of chaos. Leo jerked back, retreating into his shell as sounds collided. "I can't deal with this now," the millionaire snapped. His voice sliced through the air, full of fear and anger. "What do you mean a situation?" "They found the evidence," the officer replied, voice grave. "They know. It's all falling apart." Ava's ears buzzed. "Evidence?" She glanced from Leo to the officer, back to the millionaire. The tension morphed into something heavier. It felt like a brick pressing down on her chest. The millionaire turned, fury burning in his eyes. "No! After everything I've built, after all the sacrifices, this cannot be happening." Ava caught a glimpse of Leo, his small body trembling violently as his father's temper erupted. Confusion swirled around her. What was happening? The officer lowered his voice, but it still carried through the air. "You need to decide quickly. If we don't act now, if they find out about him, it could ruin everything." A chill washed over Ava. "Him? Who?" She followed the officer's glance, and realized he meant Leo. Suddenly, amid the chaos, something clicked in place. Ava remembered the papers she'd seen earlier, crumpled in the wastebasket near the millionaire's desk. A name, a date, a cryptic phrase. It flashed in her mind like a neon sign. Adoption. Sweat trickled down her back as realization hit her. Leo wasn't just a boy who needed a little kindness. He was the key to a hidden truth. A truth that could dismantle the facade of the millionaire's empire. But before she could grasp the full weight of the secret, a crash echoed from behind the office, followed by frantic voices. The swish of fabric stirred as the officer moved back toward the door. Ready to confront the chaos. "I'll handle it," he called over his shoulder. "Just keep him calm." Leo's eyes widened, panic flooding back into his body. Ava's fingers twitched, longing to reach out to him. She felt the pull between them, the need to protect him, to shield him from whatever storm was brewing outside. But the fear in Leo's eyes was unmistakable. Then, as if summoned by the tension, a figure loomed in the doorway. It was a woman, dark hair flowing like a shadow, eyes fierce and determined. Ava's heart jolted. She knew this woman, Lily, the millionaire's estranged ex-wife, who had been whispered about behind closed doors. "What's going on?" Lily's voice rang clear, cutting through the air like glass. Ava's pulse thundered. What was she doing here? The atmosphere shifted, laden with unsaid words. This wasn't just about Leo anymore. It was about secrets spilling into the light, where shadows no longer held power. As all eyes turned to Lily, Ava's mind raced. The pieces were swirling, clashing together. Would this woman expose the truth? What would happen to Leo? And just as doubt began to grip her heart, the lights flickered, and the room plunged into darkness. The sound of sirens rang in the distance. A storm. With darkness, nerves humming in the air, Ava felt the pulse of panic racing through her, sending sharp tingles down her spine. She glanced at Leo, fear dancing in his wide eyes, as if the shadows looked ready to swallow him whole. Bright flashes of crimson danced in the darkness, a fire truck racing past. Sirens wailed like banshees in the distance, growing closer. In the silence that followed the chaos of the millionaire's arrival, every breath felt like it could shatter more than just tensions. It could unravel the very fabric of their lives. As the weight of the moment pressed in on them, the lights flickered back on, casting sharp edges across the room. But something was off. People were talking outside, voices raised, hurried whispers, urgency hanging as thick as smoke. Then, like a slingshot flinging into action, the office door swung open again. This time it wasn't just Lily who stepped inside. No, it was a man. A stranger, tall and gaunt, with sunken eyes holding a chilling coldness. Ava couldn't shake the feeling that he belonged nowhere good. "I'm here for the boy," the stranger announced, venom dripping from his words. Ava's breath hitched. "What do you mean?" The millionaire, white-knuckled and seething, stared at the man with an expression that blended shock and pure fury. "Stay away from my son." Everything shifted. Leo's small body trembled, eyes flitting between his father and this new threat. Ava felt her heart slam against her ribs, every instinct screaming for her to protect him. But the stranger stepped closer, his voice a dangerous whisper. "You think you can shield him? You think he's worth more than what I know?" Leo's wide eyes glistened with tears, confusion thickening the air like fog. Suddenly, everything snapped into focus, a rawness cracking through the illusion they had all been living. The walls around them constricted, shaking the very foundations of their carefully constructed reality. "Who are you?" Ava found her voice, shaky but resolute. The man smirked, a cruel twist that sent chills racing through her. "Let's just say, I'm the man who knows the truth. About your little boy, about his past, about the filthy secrets buried deep next to all that gold you cling to." Ava felt the ground shift beneath her. The millionaire's empire, his poised facade, it was slipping. How could this man have intel on Leo? A beast looming, ready to devour everything in its path. Leo's fingers tightened around the blue ball, his small sanctuary, as he shrank back. Ava stepped in front of him, defiance bubbling inside her. "What do you want?" But the stranger's mocking smile never faltered. "What do I want? I want everything. That paper you're holding, it's more than you can imagine. Everything you love will burn to ashes. But first, the boy, he's key to the storm you're too blind to see." A heavy silence stretched as everyone processed what he just said. Faces grew pale. Ava felt the world spin, a dizzying realization gripping like a vice. The future of them all clinging to this single thread, the truth wrapped around Leo. A sudden crash came from behind the office, and everyone turned. The air crackled with more chaos, but it faded before it even started. The stranger stepped closer to Leo, greed dancing in his eyes. As air thickened, the tension peaked. Ava suddenly realized something crucial. This man, the nightmare standing before them, could unravel everything, but could he also lead her to the truth? Just as she was about to act, the lights cut out again. Dread settled in her stomach. The distant sound of footsteps echoed, marching closer. A gut-wrenching thought hit her. What if the past wasn't just a hidden truth? What if it was a weapon prepared to strike? She clenched her fists, ready to protect. But in the next breath, another piercing sound sliced through the dark. A gunshot. Shock froze time. The world halted. Ava's heart stopped. Who was hurt? What chaos had just been unleashed? With her emotions tearing at her, she realized the unfolding horror was only just beginning. What awaited them in this madness? A deafening silence settled across the room right after the gunshot echoed out. Ava's heart thundered in her chest, restricting her breath as shock paralyzed her limbs. Leo crouched like a fragile bird, eyes wide with fear, glancing between the stranger, his father, and Ava. The air was dense with chaos, emotions colliding like storm clouds overhead. Then, the lights flickered back on, battling the shadows to reveal the shocking scene. The stranger stood tall, gun still smoking. But what froze Ava's blood was not just the weapon, it was the expression on his face, a smirk, one that dripped with a mixture of triumph and twisted pleasure. He wasn't just here for Leo. This was personal. "Did you really think you could keep him safe?" he sneered, his eyes glinting like ice. "You underestimated the power of the past. You'll soon learn. Secrets like these don't just vanish." "Who are you?" Ava's voice trembled, trying to hold on to conviction while quaking with panic. "What do you want?" With a swish of his hand, the man motioned towards Leo. "You can play guardian if you like, but your efforts will be futile. He's not just a boy. He's the key to something much darker, something you'll regret uncovering." Ava stood firm, shielding Leo behind her. "If you think I'll let you hurt him." But just then, the noise surged outside again. Sirens blared deafeningly closer. Suddenly, the office door burst open, and a flood of uniformed officers flooded in, eyes wide with urgency. "Get down! Everyone down!" shouted a police officer, But the chaos escalated rapidly. Before Ava could react, she felt a grip on her arm. It was the millionaire, yanking her close, eyes wild. "You need to go now. They can't know." But something stopped her. Leo. He looked so small and scared. Ava's heart clenched, tearing between instinct to protect and the urgency to flee. "Stay back," the stranger roared, raising the gun as he stepped closer, an ominous shadow swallowing the innocence in the room. And then it happened. The unthinkable twist that snapped everything into sharp focus. The door opened wider, and a second figure stepped inside, wrapped in shadows. Her features were familiar, yet strikingly changed, a deep sadness in her eyes. Ava gasped, not from fear, but from sheer disbelief. It was Lily, but she wasn't alone. In her arms, she held another child, an exact replica of Leo. Another boy, same wild hair, same freckled face, but so much younger. "What?" Ava sputtered, her mind racing with questions. "Who? How?" Lily's voice was calm yet unyielding. "He's your brother, Leo. You're adopted, but not just by him. You both share a secret that binds you. Both taken from a past none of us can escape." A silence fell, thick and suffocating. Leo's eyes darted between Lily, Ava, and the stranger. Confusion twisted tighter than ever. The stranger's face contorted with rage. "No, you're just complicating things. It's supposed to be simple." "Simple?" Lily echoed, stepping forward, the child in her arms, shivering slightly. "Nothing in this family is simple. We've been trapped in a web of lies long enough." In that moment, Ava felt every emotion crash around her. Fear, confusion, hope, and utter disbelief. The revelation that Leo had a brother upended everything she thought she understood about this family. About him, about the very nature of the truth she was grasping for. "What else are you hiding?" Ava's voice trembled, the weight of discovery sinking in. "What are you not telling us?" But all at once, the lights flickered once more. Plunging the office into darkness, Ava felt a small hand slip into hers, Leo's hand trembling yet steadying her. Then, without warning, the soft whimper of the younger child broke through the heavy silence. "Please don't let him take me." The voice was small, fragile, like the boy himself. And with those words, a new wave of urgency rushed through Ava. The stakes had soared higher, and the next move was beyond crucial. Everything teetered on the brink. What would happen when the darkness revealed its secrets? What more was hidden in the shadows of this twisted empire? The tension hung heavily, waiting to explode, leaving Ava desperate for answers, and terrified of what those answers might mean. The room pulsed in the wake of confusion and tension. As the lights flickered back on, the weight of truth settled thick in the air, pressing on Ava's chest like an iron shackle. Leo clutched her hand tightly, those wide, innocent eyes darting between the stranger, Lily, and the chaos carried by their revelations. "Brother?" The word escaped Ava's lips like a gasp, but before she could voice another thought, Lily stepped closer, a sense of determination carving strength into her features. "Yes, Leo, you need to listen." The moment hung taut, like a wire ready to snap. The stranger, his facade cracking, sneered. "You've done enough, Lily. You're only making it harder for them." "Harder?" Lily's voice resonated with an edge. "You think I care about how hard it is for you? This is about Leo. You don't get to control him anymore." Each sentence threw another jolt into the already fraying fabric of the room. But as Ava processed the words, brother, control, she felt an unsettling shift brush against her. Suddenly, another crash echoed outside. The door to the office flung wide open again, and in rushed a swarm of officers, urgency radiating from their faces. But it wasn't just the officers that jolted her. It was the sound of footsteps that followed. Heavy, chaotic, too many for a simple raid. "Get back, everyone!" A commanding voice boomed from the entrance. Ava spun around, instinctively positioning herself in front of Leo. Her heart raced like a wild animal, electricity prickling the air. The tension morphed again, thickening like fog. And then from the back of the crowd, a voice sliced through the chaos. You took my son. A woman emerged, frantic, wild-eyed, her face pale, marking the first hint of familiarity. Ava's chest constricted. It was Leo's biological mother. "Who are you?" the stranger exclaimed, voice straining against the fresh wave of panic washing over him. "I'm his mother," she shouted, stepping closer, shaking with both fear and anger. "You stole him from me." The crowd recoiled, whispers ricocheting around the room, fusing confusion and horror. Ava's legs felt like jelly. The truth was spiraling faster than she could hold on. "Please," the woman's voice cracked. "I've spent years searching. You took him. He's my wildflower." What? The word hit Ava like a thunderclap. Wildflower? Was that a name? Before she could make sense of it, the stranger lunged forward, drawing attention. "Your past doesn't matter. You can't just waltz in here claiming rights." But the side eye he shot toward Lily betrayed a deeper connection, one laced with jealousy and rage. Ava felt the weight of more than just family secrets. It hung heavy and unbearable, as if a spring had coiled tight, threatening to snap. The gun still lay on the floor, forgotten for a moment, but danger loomed, ready to crash back. "And what did you say?" Lily's voice cut through the noise, rising with disbelief. "You can't be serious." But it was then the child in Lily's arms whimpered again, pulling every eye back toward him. "Let me go. I don't want to be here." His small voice carried trauma as cold as steel. And then it happened. The stranger turned his gun toward the boy. "No, stay away from him." Time froze. A collective gasp filled the room. Ava's heart lurched. In one instant, everything twisted. The terrible truth hung in the balance, stark and heavy. The strangers were tangled, threads of love, deception, and betrayal, weaving together into a tapestry of chaos. Ava's throat tightened as she took a step forward, ready to unleash whatever fearless courage she could muster. But before she could act, in the chaos, another shot rang out, a deafening crack. All went dark as the lights flickered again. The room spun into confusion, and a scream echoed through the silence. What had just happened? The walls trembled with uncertainty, and Ava could feel the entire universe closing in around her. Every heartbeat a drum against the chaos. In that moment, she knew. Everything she thought was real was a facade. The truth was about to unravel, and the consequences could shatter more than just their lives. What fate lay ahead, hidden in that swirling darkness? Would they all walk away from the storm raging in their hearts? The sound of the gunshot still echoed in Ava's ears, thickening the weight of shock in the room. Everything fell silent, a frozen tableau of fear and uncertainty. Leo's eyes were wide, filled with confusion, while the boy in Lily's arms trembled, tiny breaths hitching in terror. Suddenly, a strangled scream broke through the thick atmosphere. Ava's gaze darted to the source. It was the woman claiming to be Leo's mother. "No, not again," she shrieked, clutching her head in desperation. "You can't take him from me." But then, another unexpected noise, a low, ominous rumble, as if the very building itself were alive with the turmoil raging within. In the chaos, the office's vast glass windows vibrated, and Ava caught a glimpse of an unmarked van screeching to a halt outside, its tires screeching against the pavement. "What are you doing here?" the stranger yelled, panic flashing across his face. Ava barely registered the shock on everyone's faces as the office door was slammed open wide. 3 men in tactical gear stormed inside, weapons drawn, expressions fierce but sharp with urgency. "Everyone down. This is a raid." The air crackled with tension. A flood of emotion surged through Ava. Fear, confusion, desperation. She tightened her grip on Leo's hand, willing him to stay close. "Did you see them?" one of the officers shouted, eyes scanning the room. "All of you, stay where you are." The stranger's expression morphed into pure fury. "You're making a mistake. I'm not the one you're looking for." Before anyone could process, the lead officer stepped forward, voice booming, "Step away from the child." Ava felt her heart racing, both terrified for Leo and overwhelmed by the storm of secrets swirling around them. "No," she cried out, instinctively moving in front of Leo, shielding him from the chaos. "He's innocent. Please." That's when everything changed. The woman who had claimed to be Leo's mother suddenly lunged toward the stranger, fingers clawing at the air. "You think you can just walk away? You don't get to erase my past." Amidst the shouting and confusion, she stumbled, knocking into the stranger, and in that instant, something hard fell from his pocket. A flash drive, tumbling onto the polished floor. Time slowed as all eyes snapped to it, an unthinkable truth teetering on the edge of revelation. "What's that?" Ava breathed, the fear coiling tighter around her heart. The officer bent down, picking it up with stern eyes. "This could change everything," he muttered, looking between the stranger and the woman, suspicion brewing in his expression. Then it happened, like a lightning bolt cleaving the chaos. A loud siren wailed outside, making the windows rattle. The air filled with more urgency, like a noose tightening around the mounting tension. Suddenly, the walls reverberated. With a thud, a second gunshot rang out from the hallway. Screams erupted. The officers shifted their focus, weapons aimed, faces hardening into resolve. "Get down," the lead officer shouted again, heart racing as confusion erupted into chaos. Ava's world spun. What was happening? The layers of truth were thick and unraveled, cold and chilling. She turned her gaze to Leo, who had gone pale. Then everything clicked. The drive, the secrets, and now the gunfire. Somebody's here for him. Ava realized, the gravity of the situation crashing in. "Leo, we have to get out." But before she could act, the office door exploded open again, and in walked a figure cloaked in shadow, unrecognizable at first, but as he stepped into the light, Ava's breath caught painfully in her throat. It was Leo's biological father. "No!" the woman shrieked, darting forward again, but her instinct was too late. The stranger, face twisted in malicious glee, motioned to the new arrival, words tumbling from his mouth in a smooth yet sinister tone. "You have no idea what you've walked into." Ava felt the ground beneath her tremble, her heart pounding with dread. Secrets buried deep were clawing their way to the surface. In that instant, one question screamed in her mind. What truth lay at the heart of this chaos, ready to shatter everything they knew? And just as she stepped closer to confront the tumult, the ground shook under a violent explosion. Overhead lights shattered, cascading glass like raindrops of despair. What horrors awaited them now, tangled in the web of lies and revelations? What darkness would be unleashed when the secrets finally saw the light? The sound of shattering glass hung in the air, a sharp reminder of the chaos erupting around them. Ava's heart pounded like a war drum as she instinctively shielded Leo. Squeezing his trembling hand, the atmosphere crackled with fear, a living, breathing thing. The moment stretched long and thin. The stranger's gaze narrowed, calculating, as he sized up the new arrivals. The officers moved like a storm, focused and ready. Just when Ava thought it couldn't become any more intense, the tension shattered like the broken glass overhead. "Get down, now!" The lead officer lunged forward, urgency coating his voice, but the atmosphere shifted suddenly. As the gunman raised his weapon, everything seemed to move in slow motion. Lily held the younger boy tighter, a mix of defiance and terror in her eyes, while the woman claiming to be Leo's mother shouted something Ava couldn't catch over the cacophony. Then, without a moment's pause, the chaotic scene erupted into madness. The previously tense silence exploded into a cacophony of chaos as a second gunshot rang out from the hallway. Ava spun around, and time froze as she saw a hooded figure rush into the office. The whole crowd gasped, confusion and terror cutting through the air like a knife. It was a flash, a blur, but something about that figure felt dangerously familiar. "No, not you," the stranger spat, eyes widening. "Stop, everyone get down," the officer barked, shifting his attention.
But it was too late. Gunfire erupted again, echoing through the office walls.
Ava's heart sank as she struggled to comprehend the gravity of the situation. The shadowed figure pulled back the hood. It was a face she recognized too well. Jamie, Leo's long-lost brother, the one nobody had even talked about. The realization clawed at her. How was he here? Confusion ached in her chest as he locked eyes with Leo, a wild mix of desperation and determination swirling in them. "Leo," Jamie called, voice resonating in a way that magnified every emotion. "You have to come with me." "What? No." Ava shook her head, recoiling. "You're not taking him anywhere." The air thickened, tension stretching like a tight rope, ready to snap. But before she could react, the clock on the wall ticked loudly, breaking the electric silence with a sickening echo. Then, like a storm breaking, a sudden crash came from the window. A flash of blinding light filled the room, accompanied by a thunderous explosion. Ava was thrown off her feet, landing hard against the ground, her vision blurring. Shouts filled the air, screams of fear and surprise echoed around her. She rolled over, trying to regain her bearings. As the dust settled, the scene unfolded in inexplicable agony. The stranger was gone, swallowed by the chaos, while Leo sat frozen on the floor, wide-eyed and lost. "Mommy," the younger boy howled, but Lily was nowhere to be seen, vanished in the chaos. The horror sank deeper into Ava's bones as she scanned the room. The officers scrambled, shouting commands, but their voices became a distant murmur. "See, that's not the only secret," he shouted, panic drenching his voice. "It's bigger than you know. It always was." Another explosion rattled the structure, and Ava felt the heavy weight of dread settle on her shoulders. The kind that whispered of secrets buried deeper than anyone cared to admit. Now, facing Leo, she could see it in his eyes. An understanding that peeled back layers of innocence. But the truth of Jamie's words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. What were they not telling her? As sirens wailed in the background and panic filled the air, Ava realized the web of deceit that enveloped them all was just beginning to unravel. This was no simple family affair. It was a storm waiting to break, and the question lingered like smoke in her mind. What more lurked in the darkness? What hidden truth would turn their worlds upside down? Ava stood there, heart racing, only half grasping the chaos drenching her. The air crackled with anxiety. Jamie, Leo's brother, stood frozen, eyes darting between the officers and the wreckage that filled the room. She felt the weight of everything heavy, everything tumbling toward disaster. They were on the brink of something unimaginable. "Leo, we need to go," she whispered, urgency creeping into her voice. But before she could take a step forward, another figure surged from the shadows, pushing past the broken windows. This one had an air of desperation about him, face hidden beneath a hood, yet she felt an unsettling recognition flicker through her. "Stop right there," an officer shouted, raising his weapon, but the figure didn't halt. Instead he lunged, stumbling toward the younger boy cradled in Lily's arms. "I'm here for him," he shouted, wild-eyed and frantic. "What? Who are you?" Ava questioned, her pulse a relentless thunder as her protective instincts kicked in. Then, in a hypnotic moment, the hood dropped. Ava felt the world tilt. It was Mark, Leo's other biological father, the one nobody had seen in years, the one everyone thought was gone. And he looked broken, disheveled, haunted. The chaos morphed again. "They took him from me," Mark's voice cracked, eyes burning with both fury and fear. "You can't keep him away from his family." Lily gasped, instinctively clutching her child closer. "You can't be here, Mark. You have no right." The tension vibrated through the room, choking everyone. Words hung heavy, unspoken truths thrumming in the air. What had they all been hiding? "Leo, come here," Mark shouted, arms outstretched, desperation bleeding into his voice. "Your real family is here. Don't you see? You don't belong to them." Ava felt the room spin, her breath quickening. "What do you mean?" she asked, voice trembling. Chills crawled down her spine. Had she been deceived? Was Leo's entire life a carefully constructed lie? "No," Leo cried. "I don't want to go." Ava's heart shattered at the fear in his voice. She kept her body in front of him, shaking her head. "This is your family, Leo. We are your family." But as chaos surrounded them, the officers shifted, voices sharp and frantic. "Get back!" one shouted as the chaos expanded, and another gunshot rang out from somewhere in the hallway, shattering the tension yet again and jolting all of them. Then it happened, an explosion of noise. A fire blared from the hallway as footsteps thundered closer, marching in like thunderclouds. Two more officers burst into the room, their faces paled with urgency. "Everyone, down!" roared. It felt like a stage where performers lost themselves in the moment. Mark, eyes wild, stared between them, a storm of emotions brewing. "I'm not letting them take Leo." The words hit Ava like bricks. What loyalty? What love? For a fleeting moment, everything was unclear. Relationships spun into nets of confusion. But then that flicker returned, a moment of stillness, until Lily's child began to cry. "Mommy, I'm scared." And suddenly, time snapped, a ceiling tile shifted. Dust raining down. In that heartbeat, everything shifted. A voice, so small, yet infinitely clear, cut through the chaos. "I'm not just a boy. I'm the reason they came to take you all away." Every head turned, jaws dropping. Leo stood there, eyes fierce, yet vulnerable. "You think this is just about me? There's so much more than you know." Ava's blood ran cold as an icy chill wrapped around her heart. What more? What deeper truth had he hidden from them? "What do you mean, Leo?" Ava asked, trembling. But he only looked at her, something darker lingering in his gaze, some unfinished story begging to be told. And then the lights flickered again. Darkness enveloped the room in a cruel embrace. In that moment of uncertainty, everything they had built, every bond, every lie, hung by a thread. As the heaviness settled in, a new fear gripped Ava. What lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to surface? What truth could possibly threaten to pull them all under? Why had they been fighting when the real battle had only just begun? Ava stood there, heart racing, barely able to process everything tumbling around her. The air crackled with tension as Leo stared up at Jamie, eyes wide. She could feel his fear mixing with confusion, her own stomach twisting in knots. "Leo, what did you mean?" Ava pressed. But the words hung in the air, heavy and charged. "I'm not just a boy," Leo said, voice shaking. "There's so much more." The room echoed with silence, everyone suspended in the weight of his revelation. Then, without warning, the lights flicked one last time before plunging them back into darkness. The chaos of voices faded, leaving only the sound of their deepening breaths. Ava's heart pounded, fear clawing at her throat. Then came the penetrating ring of Jamie's voice, tinged with urgency. "We have to get out of here, now!" Suddenly the air whooshed past them. A massive surge of wind blew through the shattered windows, ruffling papers and sending a few scattered chairs toppling over. The tension sharpened, snapping like a taut wire. In that split second, a piercing scream erupted outside, the kind that shatters glass. "Get out!" a voice shouted from the hallway. "They're coming." The chaos that followed was unlike anything Ava had felt. Adrenaline surged through her veins. Without thinking, she grabbed Leo's hand, yanking him closer. "Stay with me," she shouted, her voice battling the encroaching panic. But the shadows danced around them, and the figure of Mark lunged, barricading the doorway, eyes full of madness. "You can't leave with him." His gaze was wild, desperate. "Ava, please." Leo whimpered, clutching her arm. Then it happened. Everything spiraled, spinning out of control as Mark raised his hand. And there it was, a flash of an object clutched between his fingers. A gun. Ava's world twisted into a haze of confusion and fear. "What are you doing?" But Mark didn't answer. Instead, he waved it wildly, eyes darting around the room. "You don't understand. They'll take him. They'll take you too. You can't." Suddenly, something shifted across the room. Jamie stepped forward, fists clenched, but eyes softening. "Stop, you don't have to do this, Mark." But before anyone could react, the sound of sirens outside intensified. The whirling lights strobed through the dusty office, illuminating faces twisted in anguish, confusion spilling from stood bystanders. Screams erupted again, desperate cries peppering the air. Ava sensed movement behind her, eyes flicking back to Leo, who was bracing against her side, trembling. Then, before she could catch her breath, a deafening explosion rocked the corridor outside. The ground shook, rattling everything within the room, even their bones. "What the?" Jamie shouted, and in that instant Mark's grip on the gun faltered. And then came the shock that made Ava's heart skip a beat. A figure burst through the doorway, illuminated by the flashing lights. But it wasn't just any figure. It was Leo's biological father, Mark's old accomplice, but now with a different air of authority. "Let him go," the newcomer bellowed, voice slicing through the chaos like a knife. "This ends now." Like a movie unfolding, everything shifted. Mark froze, gaze whipped in confusion. "What?" he stammered, confusion clawing at him. With that declaration, Jamie stepped forward, eyes wide in disbelief. "You knew," he accused, voice trembling. "You knew all along." But just as realization washed over everyone, the air shifted. Weapons went up, officers sprang forward, and the chaos erupted into a cacophony of shouting and screams. "Everyone down," the lead officer barked. But it was too late. The scene blurred into chaos, gunfire sounding in succession, voices raised in terror. Everything Ava thought she understood shattered like glass around her. Secrets erupted in flames. The truth morphed into something else entirely. In the whirlwind, she stumbled back, chest tight, watching the scene unravel. A flicker of faint recognition danced through her mind. They were all connected in ways they couldn't even imagine. And somewhere beneath the chaos, jagged truths waited to reveal themselves. But as the dust settled and panic began to echo, the question lingered in the air, thick and palpable. What deeper secret lay beneath the surface of this unraveling nightmare? What had they all been a part of all along? Ava's heart thundered in her chest as the chaos unfolded, each crack and shout pushing her deeper into a whirlwind of dread. The air was thick with tension, jagged moments clashing as the hooded figure, Mark, confronted his past, his fingers twitching dangerously around the gun. "Stop, don't do this," a frantic voice rang out, Lily, clutching her younger son tightly, eyes wide with fear. The officers shouted, urgency bleeding into their commands. "Get down, everyone," and then, in a stunning moment of clarity, Leo stepped forward, small frame trembling. "Wait, everyone stop. Ava, get him back." Jamie's voice cut through the chaos, desperate eyes locked on Leo. But something gleamed in Leo's gaze, determination. "I know why they're here. It's my fault." The room went silent, every heartbeat echoing in that heavy air. Ava's breath caught in her throat. "What are you talking about, Leo? I'm the reason they want to take me. I've seen them." There was a pause, the weight of revelation, holding them all captive. "I know the truth behind it all. The family history, the lies." A shudder ran through Ava, her heart aching for the boy standing before her, torn and brave. "Leo?" "No," she urged, stepping closer. But he held out his hand, pleading. "It's time," he whispered, a quiet strength breaking through. "I can help us all, together." The officers and Mark exchanged looks, an amalgam of fear and disbelief flickering across their faces. Jamie, visibly torn, took a step forward. "We can protect you, Leo. Just stay with us." But Mark's eyes darkened, rage surfacing. "You think they care about you? You're just a pawn." "No." The room erupted as Lily shouted back defiantly. "He's not a pawn, he's family." Amid the whirlpool of emotions, reality crashed into perspective. Time expanded and quivered. That gun, it felt heavy with the weight of history and shattered dreams. "Enough," Ava yelled, fists clenched, voice raw with fear and fury. She stepped towards Mark, eyes blazing. Let him go. This ends now. A cacophony of voices swelled, layers of conflict and fear blending into a maelstrom around them. Then came a deafening sound, a gunshot. But it didn't originate from Mark. It came instead from an unseen outside force, shattering the tense moment as an officer took aim at Mark, determined to protect Leo. "Get back," the officer shouted, and everything exploded into motion. The world blurred into chaos, but Ava didn't waver. She sprinted forward, reaching Leo just as he teetered, fear etched on his small face. "Mommy!" the younger boy screamed, his voice echoing with raw terror, and Lily moved protectively towards him. Ava felt her heart leap, the urgency almost unbearable. "We're getting out," she shouted, gripping Leo's hand tight. In that instant, everything crystallized, the past, present, and uncertain future fused as one. "Run," Jamie called, rallying the group. "Follow me." With armed officers ushering them through the chaos, they tore down the hallway, entering the swirling storm of uncertainty that awaited outside. The air was electric, filled with sirens and voices calling for peace amid rising panic. As they burst through the exit, blinking against the bright daylight, Ava felt a dizzying mix of hope and fear. Standing before her was a chance at freedom, at new beginnings. And then, for just a moment, time suspended. Each figure regarded one another with shared pain, forgiveness flickering among them. "Leo," Ava whispered, kneeling to meet his eyes. "It's going to be okay." Leo nodded, vulnerability shining through, and in that moment, warmth surged within Ava. She knew this was just the beginning of their healing journey. Behind them, the shadows of their past loomed, but together, they would face whatever truth awaited. Deep down, a flicker of hope took root, echoing a promise. They were more than their secrets. They were family. They would fight for each other and carve their own destinies. The sun cast a warm glow as they stepped forward, a tapestry woven between them, a bond forged by fire. And as they walked into the horizon, ready to embrace whatever came next, a thought lingered in Ava's mind. Sometimes out of the ashes of chaos, bravery blooms brightest. If you felt that thrill in every moment, you have to subscribe immediately to my channel so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. You need to share this with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. This is your moment. Don't wait even one more second to show your support.